Hey everybody, the stream is going to be starting soon here. I am just getting all of the logistics and everything on this end tightened up, and then we'll get going right at 12 o'clock. So thanks for joining everybody, and I will start talking to you here soon. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining the live stream. So we've got about 10 people in here so far. I'm going to give people an opportunity to get in here and so that we can answer some of those technical questions. I've got my laptop over here, so I'll be looking over here from time to time to check on the chat and everything. But as you guys can see, I am in a special place right now. Behind me, I have some really cool cars. There's another one right off to the back right of me here. I am visiting and taking care of my friend's dogs right now, and I am hosting this live stream from his garage. You might recognize this red pickup here. This is, well, you can't even really tell it's a pickup, can you? This red mini pickup is the one that has the Super 998 that I built in it. This is a beautiful white moke that's currently kind of in a project state, I think, or it's a work in progress. And then he has his black moke right over here in the back right. So 2 mokes and a pickup in one garage. Pretty cool stuff. Without further ado, let's get into some technical questions, or if you have questions about the really cool vehicles that are behind me here, whatever. You've got me for an hour. I decided to do this live stream over my lunch break today. It is noon here in the US. So what's new with everybody? Hopefully the stream is working and everything, and you guys are getting a good feed right now. Little Minnie, hey, thanks for joining. Will, thanks for joining. Good to see you here. Tim, what is it? Tim Rickiskar? Welcome. Thanks for joining. So you guys probably can also see that on the live stream, I've got the chat kind of next to me right now. So what you're seeing on the chat on screen is what I am seeing right now. There's a little bit of a delay I have found with these YouTube live streams. So hopefully that's not too bad. Got a quiet bunch today. Normally we start off with just a whole bunch of technical questions right off the bat. Maybe I picked the wrong time to live stream. Can everybody hear me okay? Jeff Skipton, thanks for joining. Good to see you. So while we wait for people, maybe I can give you guys just a little bit of a visual on these cars that are in here. So I'm going to rotate this around, and I'll kind of yell so you guys can hear me. But on the left side here, we have a red mini pickup. Now this mini pickup, I don't know the year or anything, but it is like almost in just like what I would describe as mint condition. I'm sure Alex Toon could find something with it, but from my perspective, it's mint. It's right-hand drive. It's got that center speedo, and it's got that tan interior in here. Let me open up the door so you can see it. Give you guys a good look in there. So it's got this beautiful tan interior, and it's got what's called a magic wand shifter. So it kind of comes out of the bulkhead. I can't move the camera too much just because of the way my live stream's set up, but it has a magic wand shifter you can see coming out of the bulkhead, and they call it a magic wand because when you're shifting with it, it's almost like you're waving a magic wand to get into different gears. Later minis did away with this and had a more traditional shifter that you'd probably be more used to, but absolutely beautiful car. I've had an opportunity to drive this. My wife and I got a chance to drive it on my birthday weekend as well, which was super cool. Then moving along here, this is kind of a white moke that I think he got relatively recently. Has burgundy seats. I believe it's running and working now. I think there's a little bit of welding work he had to do to it, but this is a project for restoration. And then more of the moke over here. This one has a little bit of work right now. You can see the hood is open and the starter's out. I think there's a little bit of work getting done to that right now. So move this back over here, just like that. So Tim says, any big project going on? Oops, I'm a little bit out of frame there. So from my perspective, the biggest project I got going on right now is the Supercharger. We are moving from, well, I am moving from the fuel injected system to a Weber instead. I got kind of tired of all of the issues I was having with the Holley setup. I think that a lot of it was my implementation, not necessarily the Holley itself. I just happened to get a lot of bad luck with sensors and mapping issues and all sorts of stuff. So I did an episode just recently about switching back to a Weber. It's part 1, so it's not complete. I'm still waiting on some parts, as it always goes, always waiting on some parts. And then we have to do a little bit of work to the fueling system to get that prepped for a Weber, basically reduce the pressure down so it can be used with a carburetor instead of fuel injection. Fuel injection uses a really, really high PSI, so that should be coming up. So fuel system, and then of course installing that Weber and getting it running on the Supercharger should be really, really cool. Jeff says, can you talk a little bit more about compression ratio and your Supercharger, also timing and how you can control it for boost, how to sense boost to retard boost? So compression ratio, for me, in my situation, I worked very, very closely with Stuart, who owns VMAX S-Cart, the company who builds the Supercharger, and kind of he helped me spec out the engine. I don't know a ton of the details about the compression ratio. I think we were aiming for like a 9-to-1, which is much lower than the standard compression ratio on like a naturally aspirated engine. And that was done, in my case, with a set of new Omega pistons. They were deep dish pistons, 18cc pistons, and that decompressed the combustion chamber enough to then add the Supercharger and add boost and recompress it with that Supercharger. And a lot of people, that's one method for doing it. The other option is adding a decompression plate. And a lot of people kind of poo-poo on that idea, but it's an absolutely perfectly acceptable way to install a Supercharger. You do increase the risk of having a head gasket failure because you have 2 head gaskets and you're introducing a plate in between those. That is usually the easiest and makes the Supercharger setup, in my case, in the VMAX case, a bolt-on mod, which is really, really cool. you just are accepting that risk of having maybe a head gasket blow. Although lots and lots of these kits have been out and they work perfectly. Additionally, with timing, my timing is largely static. The distributor I have, it doesn't have any sort of special advanced curve or anything like that. It is a standard distributor. And I'm trying to remember what degree of advance I have it set to. I think it's 8 degrees of advance, which is much lower than the standard setup would take. But that is just the way it needs to be set up with a supercharger. Mini Performance says, "Evening Cole, can't stop as it's still work time here. We'll have to watch and catch up on later." Well, Rich, thanks for joining for the short time. And maybe I'll have to do one of these live streams a little bit later in the day and a little bit closer to after dinner time. So Jeff, I hope that answered the question that you were asking about the supercharger. Feel free to kind of add any more detail if you were hoping for some more information there. Man, got a quiet bunch today. Kevin Shales, hey man, thanks for joining. Appreciate you you joining in here. What you got going on over there these days? Williams says, when Bad Wolf is done, what's next? This has been a question that's been kind of rattling around my head for quite some time. And I have gone all over the place with how I want to, what I want to do next. Obviously the channel is called Classic Mini DIY. But I have had some interest in kind of expanding it into some other cars as well. Specifically a old Alpha, especially now that I've had an opportunity to use, to take apart and work on a Weber carburetor. These things are really cool, and I think it would be really cool to do kind of like a Italian classic. So that's one option. I have a 1275 block right now that I was thinking about doing some kind of fun engine build that I haven't done before, maybe with the like dual overhead cam head, the K-series head from the BMW motorcycles. And then I have also considered getting a Land Rover Series Defender or Series Land Rover or a Defender. That is always been kind of like a long-term goal of mine. So lots of kind of opportunities there. I think that no matter what I do, hopefully you guys will enjoy. It'll still be the kind of same DIY stuff. It'll just be teaching you stuff on all sorts of different cars. Kevin says, how's the Weber life treating you? So Weber is almost all put back together. Still waiting on the supercharger. That should be here sometime later this week, hopefully. And then the Weber needs a few internal parts I still have to install, and then it'll all get put back together. So far, the disassembly and assembly process has been really fun, but I haven't gotten a chance to drive it yet. Very excited about that. Paul Jansen says, hi Cole, what is the normal compression rate for a 1300 A series? I don't know the standard compression. I feel like it might be like 11 or 12 to 1 or something like that. There are people in this chat right now that probably know a lot better than I do. Classic Mini Workshop, thanks for joining. Good to see you, Keith. Simon says, hey Cole, I'm looking at rebuilding my 998. Just wondering if you ever got the 998 rebuild dyno to be interested in the final project or final output. So this is a Super 998. It's not actually my car. So the engine is in this car. We've never put it on the dyno. And I will say that most of the engines that I have built haven't really ever gone to the dyno. Not because I'm afraid of power figures not living up to something, but it's not something that's super important to me. And the biggest thing is I want the car to run properly, but I also want it to be fun to drive, and the power numbers are kind of like just a secondary thing. I will be doing a dyno run on the Super Bad Wolf, because, you know, I wanted to see how much difference there was between the horsepower on a naturally aspirated 1293 and the supercharged version was. But this never went on the dyno. The engine beforehand did technically go on the dyno, but yeah, I haven't done that yet. Justin, thanks for joining. Says, get to replacing the clutch on that blue Moke. Yeah, right over here, this Moke. He was hoping that I might replace the clutch for him while I'm over here. That is the owner right there of these wonderful cars that are behind me. Aslan Robinson, hey there, thanks for joining. Adam Campion, cool live stream setup, thank you. I am using kind of this new software, Streamlabs OBS, to kind of manage the camera and the mic and all that stuff, and it uploads to YouTube. But if I could have a garage like this, that's the ultimate live stream setup right there. Will Murfitt says, my 998 was 33 horsepower at the was 33 bhp, if that helps, at the wheels. Adam Campion, it's amazing what you can do with a green screen. What are you talking about, Will? Watch. Look at this. Look at this. You can't do this with a live stream. I'm touching it. So what do you guys think I should do next? You know, I've done a ton of different mini stuff so far. I think it would be really cool to kind of expand the channel into some other classics. What would you like to see on the channel? Do you want to see a Defender? You want to see an Alpha? An old Fiat? I don't know, maybe there's something else. I don't do a lot of American muscle stuff because there's a lot of it here in the US and it's not really my jam. I like the Euro cars a lot more, so if you ask for an old Mustang, I probably will not be doing that. Will says, Will's a vote for the Alpha. Okay. Ooh, Adam, a Volvo. You're winning over the owner of these cars right now. He's got a beautiful Volvo 850R. It's actually parked right out here, I think. Yeah, let me see if I can rotate the camera enough for you guys to see that. You can see that red just peeking through right there. I can't bring the camera any farther though. See, told you, Adam. Man after Justin's heart. So if I did an old Volvo then, Adam, what kind of Volvo would you like to see? And same question for you, Will. What kind of Alpha would you like to see? Ooh, mopeds. Didn't you have a yellow moped or something around here, Justin? It's hidden away. I think that'd be a lot of fun to do, actually. I've always wanted to work on just a small motorbike, like Vespa, Piaggio, something like that. Would be really cool. Volvo Arizona. What is that? I don't know if I've ever heard of a Volvo Arizona. Adam says a 240 or earlier. Okay, all right. I did see a really, really cool Volvo while we were out or up north. I was gonna see if I have a photo here that I could share with you guys, but I don't think I kept that video, that picture. Tim says lots of old Volvos back here in Sweden. Maybe you can ship one out to us, a really cool old one. Mini Wood Production says a VW Carmen. Oh, Carmen Ghia. Oh, yeah, that would be really cool. There's a guy in my neighborhood that has 3 of them. He's got a Volkswagen Thing, 3 Carmen Ghias, and I recently saw a Volkswagen Bug sitting out in front of his house, and he kind of rotates them around. I don't know where they go, but he's always got some sort of old VW out there. Justin votes VW buses. Mucho money there. Bluebird bus coach conversion. Now that's more my speed right there. Do like a live-in van conversion or something like that. That'd be cool. Dang, y'all are crazy. I thought there'd be a lot more votes for the Alpha or the Series Land Rovers, but everybody's like Volvo Central here. I don't know if I'm disappointed or excited. So what's everybody working on their minis right now? We know Justin has a clutch to do on his Moke here. Got any big projects going on? Rebuilding engines? Justin says Fiat is fix it again, Tony. Well, there has to be an acronym for mini. Mini issues, nearly... Mini infinite never-ending issues. There we go. Mini infinite never-ending issues. Mini. Ooh, that would be a good one, Will. I was thinking like a GTV, but that could be a really cool rebuild right there. Tim says, I'm putting a tow bar on my Countryman. Nice. Nice. So are you using the video that I did on that? Like the front angle iron bar and then mounting up a tow bar system on that? Adam says, I'm going to pull my motor when I've moved house for some repairs. What's wrong with it? I thought it was running nice and pretty now. Paul Jansen says, how much horsepower should a double HS2 setup on a 1293 run? So with my 1293, I had, at the time I had a single HS6 carburetor. That's the same size as an HIF 44. So it's an inch and 3/4 inlet size there. So with that setup, I had, I forget what I think I was like right at 70 horsepower with the single carb setup with the 1293. So you're probably somewhere in that range. I'm sure that there was a lot more optimization there as well. I probably could have gotten the fueling a little bit better, the fueling profile a bit better. And I think that I could have probably bounced off of the 80 horsepower area with my skill set. I think that some people could probably pull even more power out of it. But with my setup, I think that was probably what was realistic. Will says, I have a clutch to do on Luke's Mini this weekend. Oh man, I love Luke's car. It's this beautiful, beautiful blue. It's a blue that I have never seen before. And just absolutely, absolutely beautiful car. His username on Instagram is CopCut. I don't remember the numbers at the end, but if you want to check that out, he posts pictures of his Mini on there from time to time. And it is wonderful. Good luck with that clutch job, Will. I'm assuming you're going to do it in situ. You're not going to take the engine out or anything. Get Juice says, hi Cole, what do you think about a 998 with a turbo? I think it's a great idea. The 998 turbos are slick. Either supercharging or turbocharging in a 998 is great because you can get the power up to and a little bit above like a standard 1275 pretty easily. And if you put some work into it, you can definitely kind of exceed that, which is neat. But they are also, the nice thing about 998s is that they structurally, all of the cylinders and the sidewalls in between the cylinders are much thicker than a 1275, especially when you start to overbore a 1275. How much stronger it is, you know, a point of contention, but it is certainly something that is, you know, worth appreciating, is that the 998 will have a thicker, more structured block for you to work with when you're increasing the boost with a turbocharger. One thing I will say is I don't know that you can get Omega pistons for a 998, So I think that there would have to be some kind of clearancing and things in your cylinder head to decompress your engine, rather than decompressing it with pistons. I could be wrong about that, though. I just haven't ever tried to purchase Amigos for a 998. It says adjust engine because it's running too rich now. Yeah, I'm guessing as it's starting to get colder, it's getting a little bit richer now, or well, actually I would think it would get a little bit leaner as the air gets a little bit more condensed. But yeah, always chasing those adjustments on a Mini, I tell you. Will says Ford fix or repair daily. Yep, that is a good one and definitely one I agree with. Although the more recent Fords I am more impressed with, I will say. Adam says it's running okay, but smoking more and more. I think I need to get some valve guides and valves done, but I want to have a look over the bottom end. Are you going to do any sort of like gearbox work? Excuse me. Or just take it apart? I will say once you take an engine apart, it's a slippery slope to getting into rebuilding it. So be careful how much you take apart because you're probably going to want to rebuild it once you get it apart. Will says videos will be coming to the channel on that clutch replacement, and yes, in situ. Awesome. Yeah. Well, good luck with it, and good luck with those bolts at the bottom of the clutch cover. Those ones are always a bastard to get out. So I have gotten a relatively positive response about the swap from the Holley EFI to the Weber. But folks that are in the live stream today, what do you think about that transition? Do you think it's a good one? You think that moving to the Weber setup is going to be a good choice, or do you think I'm going to run into more problems now that I have that Weber and no more EFI? Curious to see what y'all think. Adam says I need to do the clutch as well. Yep. Well, it's a good opportunity to get all of it apart and check clearances and things. And there's some really nice gasket kits that Mini Spares sells now. They're like an improved gasket. It's kind of a bluish greenish color, and they're apparently much thicker and much better at sealing. I used them on my most recent build and on this build as well. And I don't know, Justin can chime in if he's still in here to tell me whether or not he's been leaking a lot of oil or anything, but I don't think he has. Miniwood Production says smart. I don't know if that smart was in reference to my Weber question or not, but I'm going to choose that you think it was a smart choice for me to move to the Weber. Adam says, I think the Weber is tried and tested, but it's a shame the EFI didn't work out just for the jump in and drive element. Yeah, I will say that was one of the biggest, most appealing things to it. And I also have a little bit hotter cam in my engine, and the EFI was going to do a lot better job of kind of normalizing the idle and allowing me to keep the idle down a little bit lower. So that's too bad. But, you know, I think that hopefully it's going to be less headache in the future. Once I get the settings dialed in, they should be pretty static overall. And the fueling system, it is a shame because I spent a lot of time and a lot of money on upgrading the fueling system to get more PSI, to get more flow, and to set up for the injectors. And now I have to literally reverse all of that, either with a fuel, well, I'm going to do it with a fuel pressure regulator, but, you know, I've got this MPI tank in my car now pumping all this fuel, and I just got to depressurize it and run it back into the return now. It's a shame. William says, good choice. Are you keeping the charger? Absolutely keeping the Supercharger. I mentioned it in my most recent video. If you guys haven't seen it, the Superchargers that Stewart makes have a specific flange welded onto them. And so when you purchase one, you either are picking an EFI system or a carbureted system. And then there are two types of injection systems you can go with. There's an Emerald ECU with a throttle body setup and all these things that uses a Weber style flange. And then I chose the Sniper EFI setup thinking it would be probably a little bit easier to get set up across the pond. That uses a completely different flange. It uses the Holley carburetor flanges that are on, muscle cars and, American Muscle, all those different things. And so the Supercharger I have couldn't be accommodated. You couldn't just bolt a Weber back onto it. Stuart was absolutely gracious enough to say, send me the Supercharger back. And then he's going to send me another one that has the Weber flanges on it in the same color that I had. Obviously, I'm paying for shipping and all of these things, but he's allowing me to exchange it. And then I'll bolt the Weber onto that. Michael Rennick says, could go either way on the EFI Weber setup. I don't know if I've seen a carb with a Supercharger in a long time. Ironically, it's funny you say that because I think the majority of the Superchargers that Stuart sells, at least his kits, are Weber kits. I think most people actually choose the Weber over the EFI simply because it's a little bit simpler to get set up, and more cars can accommodate it kind of out of the box. Yeah, it should be pretty cool. He used to have a kit, and I think that the older generations of the kit had a pipe that would run down to kind of the front of the car, and there would be an HIF 44 up there, or a similar carburetor up front. But since moving the carburetor back up to the Supercharger, I think it solves some carb icing issues and some problems when getting the car started, though I don't know a lot about that. NF says, thoughts on a CAD 16 valve versus a Specialist Components BMW K16 valve head. So I have zero experience with either of those brands, or either of those heads for that matter. That said, from my understanding, both of them are incredible setups. The CAD setups are, I think, a little bit more of a complete kit just from what I've seen anecdotally while browsing the internet. They seem to be also a good bit more expensive. So you're paying for kind of the completeness of the kit. Not to say the Specialist Component stuff isn't complete, because it definitely is too. I think that each one has kind of pros and cons from what I've read about them. Some of the heads have to be offset in a specific way, bolted on in a specific way. Some of them need to have specific pistons. I haven't done a lot of research on this, but I think you're probably in good shape no matter which route you take. Wood Production says, yes, smart for the Weber, and name's Troy. Sorry, not signed into personal account. Yeah, no worries, man. William says, awesome. I can't wait to hear it all done. You and me both, man. I am ready to stop spending money on this Mini for a while. Michael Rennick says, having the carb set up front would be a bit wild look. Yeah, it's kind of cool actually. If it worked a little bit better, it definitely would have been the route I think a lot more people would have taken. But it had a pretty slick intake pipe that would kind of set it down, and it would just sit up there, and you'd have your filter right up front, which meant that you always got cold air right on it, or cold outside air on it. But yeah, came with its own drawbacks really. Oh yeah, to mention, Michael here in the live chat is the one who donated the Weber for this build, so thank you so much for that, Weber. It has been a really, really, really big lifesaver. It saved me a lot of money, and it's going to allow me to kind of get this project completed for you guys a lot sooner, so thank you, Michael. Justin says, how good is a stock 998? Well, they are reliable. And they just kind of go. They do what they need to do, but they're not fast. You can still enjoy a car that has an 850 in it. Did I say 998? I think I meant to say 850. You can still enjoy a car that has an 850 in it. They're not by any means not, it doesn't make them not fun to drive. But I like a little bit faster car. Yeah, I think that if I was to buy one, I think at minimum I'd probably want a 998 in whatever car I drove. Adam says, being a bit of a tech geek, do you consider a Speeduino? So this has been mentioned to me a couple times, and I have considered it, and it's still kind of open and in a consideration state for me. It might be something that I want to get set up. I always weigh the options of how much time and energy is it going to take for me to get something set up versus buying something a little bit more kind of complete in state and more plug and play. I don't mind doing a little bit of work. Obviously, the channel is all about doing DIY, but as I've gotten older, I've gotten less and less time to do things outside of work. And my time is a lot more stretched thin. So sometimes I will pick things that are easier just because it takes less time. Justin also says, why do we need to go fast? Well, here in the U.S., most of our roads are big, open, higher speed roads. I think this is probably what you're getting at with that question. So like to travel from this house to my house, you have to get on a highway, motorway, whatever you want to call it, in order to do that. And so most of the time when you're traveling around the US, you are getting on a highway, going at least 60 to 70 miles an hour. So having a fast car isn't just about I need to go fast, fast, fast. It's more about I need to keep up with traffic, which is why we tend to not have as many 850s around here and more have things with a little bit more oomph in them. Justin says, take out that white Moke, 850 stock, supreme awesomeness. Yeah, well, the Moke's a little bit different too. You gotta admit, it is a lot lighter than the Mini that's sitting behind it even, and really any Mini. Like the 998 and the Moke that's back here is quick in comparison to, a 998 in a full saloon body. Michael Rennick says, Cole, when will you be getting your wife her own Mini? So she doesn't want a Mini, and I don't blame her. They can be a little bit finicky, but she has ironically mentioned that she wanted a old Fiat 500, which I also have been wanting for quite some time. So I think that if we get her a classic car, it's almost definitely going to be an old Fiat, and we'll soup that up or make it nice for her, and then she'll have this awesome old Fiat 500 to drive around. Not on the highway, obviously, because the little 3-cylinder engine probably would melt, but yeah. So we've got about 20 minutes left on the live stream, just to give you guys a little bit of a time check here. And so if you have any technical questions you want to ask me, now would definitely be the time. I can kind of get through those if you have any, or if not, we can just keep shooting the shit here and having a good time. Yeah, Justin, he's getting a 500 for her. Yeah, I think that any classic car that I would get for her is probably going to be more for me, and she gets to enjoy it. I'd get to do all of the tinkering and stuff, because if you guys haven't noticed, I do tend to enjoy working on cars more than I do driving them. And then she gets to have all the fun driving them. Classic Mini Details, Mr. Alex Toon. Welcome to the live stream. Good afternoon to you too. It is actually afternoon here and there right now, I think. It's not, is it evening time there yet? I'm not really sure. Michael Rennick says, are there any good tutorials you would recommend for general wiring best practices? Yeah, so there is a channel that I use for really, really technical learning. It's called HP Academy, that's based out of New Zealand. I was turned on to this by Turbo Cooper Sport. That's Steve Blakemore, the one with the red MPI turbocharged Mini. Incredibly smart guy, Steve is. But in addition to that, the HP Academy folks are incredibly smart. They do have some wiring basics in there, They have some wiring basics videos. They have some more advanced videos about like wiring looms and pinning certain connectors and all of those different things. Definitely check them out. I think that's a great source. And then in general, you know, just getting yourself a good understanding of how a 12-volt system works, how things are powered and grounded, how switches and relays work. Switches and relays are probably going to be your two main topics that are worth learning about when you're trying to wire up an old car like this. Usually, there isn't a whole lot of complexity to them, and the most complex parts are those. And then if you have like a generator instead of an alternator, you'll have like a voltage regulator box. So those can add a little bit of complexity. But overall, it's about 12-volt signals going to different accessories and getting grounded at specific times. That's kind of the nutshell, I would explain. Classic Mini Detail says, I have a tech question. I'm going to supercharge my Mark 1. Should I use a sniper? No. I don't think that I would use a sniper again. And at least I wouldn't use it unless I had someone near me who was much more comfortable with them. So for example, if I had lived a little bit closer to VMAX and I could have brought the car over to him and had a little bit more in-depth troubleshooting, probably could have ironed out some of my issues, but the back and forth and then dealing with the hardware failures and things like that, I would not recommend it. I'd probably go down the like Emerald. If you want to do EFI, do like an Emerald throttle body and ECU system or something similar to that. I know that he's trying to fish. I'm just going to answer the question like it was a real question. Damn it, Alex. Michael, thanks for joining, and have a good day at work. I'm going to have to jump back soon, too. Ilias says, which tire size is better for a 12-inch Mini? 145 70/12 or 165 60/12? My Mini has dry rotted tires, and they are 145 70/12. But online mini stores only sell the 65s. So 145 was the original thickness, or original width rather, of the tires. I think, at least with the 12-inch wheels, I think 145 was the stock size. 165 is going to be a wider wheel and a wider tire. So you can run into situations where it might rub. And with the 12-inch wheel being larger, it is going to increase the size of the wheel. The 60 value is the size of your sidewall. So that's the space between the top of the wheel or the edge of the wheel to the tread. And so with that 165, they reduced the size of the sidewall, but increased the width of the tire. So I think it'd probably be okay, but you could run into rubbing issues. It's just a possibility. Adam, thanks for joining. I will see you later. Classic Mini Details. Need better bait next time to catch me a whopper. Yeah, maybe next time, bud. Ilias, I hope that helped. I hope that gave enough information there. The 165s, I will say, will also give you a little bit more grip, a little bit better grip, because you are having more contact with the asphalt. More of the tread is actually touching the ground. So in theory, it should increase the amount of traction that you'd get with those tires. Will says, dinner time. Take it easy, pal. Speak soon. Thanks for joining, man. I'll talk to you later. All right, so it's 12:45 now, or 42 now, but I am, if nobody else has any questions, you know, we can wind this down. We don't have to run it all the way to the end. But if people have any more technical questions they want to ask, any more questions about the supercharged build, maybe you have some questions about these cars, anything like that, we can keep it going. Mini Wood Production says, back to work. Thanks for the great content. Thanks for joining, man. See you later. All right, well, it seems like it's starting to slow down, so I am probably just going to go ahead and wrap up this live stream. I really appreciate everybody joining in over my lunch break here. It's been fun. And if you guys have any suggestions about maybe another time to do this live stream, let me know. I would love to do some live streams that are maybe on the other end of the spectrum, so folks down in Australia might be able to join, or vice versa. Classic Car Cave. Hey, Dave, thanks for joining. I'm actually just wrapping it up, but I appreciate you joining in here. Nice to see you. I haven't talked with you in a while. All right, folks. Well, I will see you guys in the next episode. On the next episode, I am going to be covering how to install a fuel pressure regulator with the new carbureted setup I have to depressurize the system. So that's going to be on the next episode. Hopefully, I'll be able to get that out sometime this week and get some good information there. And if you have any questions in the meantime, post them on this video, post them on other videos, send me a message, whatever. And until the next time, you know the drill.